Good morning, everyone. We're beginning the second day of this week. We're continuing learning Torah or Likuti Torah from the first Rebbe of Chabad, and with God's help, and also with God's help, we'll continue learning the Devar Malchut. So first of all, let's give charity. First, we'll give charity. Here is the coins. Here is the charity. Here's the box. Wonderful. It saves from death and for sure from things which are less severe. And charity brings the geula, and for sure things which are less difficult. Charity. Give of yourself to others. Think about other people, and God will think about you. Now let us see like this here. A minute. There we go. Now, if you remember yesterday, and even if you don't remember yesterday, we learned about, let's see, being happy. So it says in the Torah that there's terrible plagues and disasters that await the Jewish people if they don't do what God wants. You can say it's pretty cruel, but on the other hand, you can say, well, God creates us, and He's creating us every moment. So if He's creating us every moment, so He's the boss, He can do what He wants to, right? He can do what He wants to. On the other hand, we should be grateful for being created. The God is creating us, so we should do what He says. So the Torah says that not if you don't do, not just refusing to cooperate with God is a big sin, but not being happy is a sin. It says that because you have not served God with simcha b'tuv levav, that's what the sin says, then God has brought all these terrible curses. In this week's Torah portion, there are 98 curses. Where is it? Oh, it's on the next page over here. We'll go back over here. And here we go. So it says, Tachat asher, because you did not serve God with happiness. So you have to be happy serving God. Okay, I mean, I doubt very greatly if the curses that have been brought, the Holocaust and things like that, have been brought on the Jewish people because they didn't serve God with happiness. In fact, I don't think there's any real reason that you can attribute God doing this to the Jewish people, the terrible tragedies that have occurred to the Jewish people, massive tragedies throughout the generations. You can attribute to anything normal, especially because we see that the Jewish people are still here, so we're just like God's punching bag or something like that. Of course, you can say that. That's what it looks like, but it's not so. What is so? We don't know. We don't know exactly why. But here, God just is telling us that He does have the option to punish the Jews because they're not serving Him with happiness. So if someone ever comes to you and says to you, I don't know why the Holocaust occurred, because the Jews abandoned God, because of the non-religious Jews, because of the religious Jews, because of this. So you can say to them, listen, it says in the Torah, that just not being happy serving God is enough reason for God to destroy the Jewish people. Does that make any sense? What type of a sin is that? Not being happy is a sin. So we see the whole thing is it's based on a very, how do you say, on very thin criteria. So here the Rebbe is saying that's not what it means. It doesn't mean that. It means God is trying to tell us over here that being happy is necessary and it's natural. And it should be automatic, serving God. So it's something you can expect. You can expect. So it's like, what is the criteria for, let's say, succeeding in school? Just showing up. But if you don't show up at all, then how can you succeed? The same thing is over here. God is saying you just have to show up. You have to show up. You just have to be present. What do you have to be present for? You have to be present in the presence of God. You have to realize that you're in the presence of God. As soon as you are, then you'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it. You'll be happy. Right? That's like the basic thing. So the basic thing, let's say in school, you go to elementary school, you have to show up. Basic thing in Judaism, you have to be happy. That's basic. That shows that at least you're present. Okay, so we're going to see how does this work? How does it work? So the Rebbe says, first of all, like this. There's two ways of serving God. What's called day and night. Generally speaking, night is, here we see, what is this? Day and night. It says, generally speaking, serving God in a way of night, that's prayer. And serving God in the way of day, that is Torah. What's this idea of serving God? God creates us, and he creates us for free, but he creates us for a reason. And the reason is that we should recognize what God is and be appreciative of what God is and realize that God has given us the greatest gift that could possibly be given to a human being, and that is responsibility. When a person has responsibility, he feels like he's human. He feels he's worth something. He has a reason to exist. He has a reason to wake up in the morning. He has a purpose in life. He has a goal. And God has given each human being a purpose. And that purpose should make us happy. That should make us happy. So it says, what is the purpose? The purpose is exactly that, to recognize God and to improve the world. That's called serving God. Serving God. God put us in the world, and he wants us to fix up the world. And a big part of the world we have to fix up is ourselves, our attitude. So there's two ways of doing it: prayer and learning Torah. But here the Rebbe is writing this to Jews, right? Jews. Prayer and learning Torah. Non-Jews are not supposed to learn the Torah. Prayer and learning Torah. So first of all, the Rebbe talks about prayer. What is this thing about prayer? The Rebbe says the main thing of prayer is love. What did we get up to here? I think we got up to, yeah, we got up to here. All right, let's go. Let's do this here. Let's do it. Make this bigger. Okay, so the Rebbe gave us the example. If you put a seed in the ground, so the seed miraculously grows up. Why? Because there's the power of growth in the ground. And this power of growth, which is in the ground, makes the seed, activates the seed, and gives it life, and gives it the power of growth, and it can move. It says, but there's no comparison between the, let's say, the sweetness in the apple and the spiritual power of growth in the ground. No comparison. The same way, so to speak, is by us. We are living and existing from God's power. God's power. That's what's the whole world comes from, just a little ray of godliness. Just like from the power of growth in the ground comes millions and millions and millions of apples, and it doesn't take anything away from the power of growth in the ground, or maybe a little bit. But by us, God gives us life from a ray of his existence, and it doesn't take anything away from God. And that's what we're supposed to be thinking about. We're supposed to be thinking about, where are we coming from? What is God? Who is this God that's creating us? It says, if so, we are just, if you think about this, that my existence comes from God, and God never changes, and God creates the spiritual worlds, and God is much above all the spiritual worlds, and all the other religions in the world, they just worship something spiritual, right? And that's called idolatry. Even though that's the spiritual worlds, they're certainly worthy of our worship. They're spiritual, they're infinitely greater than us. But the Torah tells us, don't worship them. Don't worship. It's a trick. Don't worship any spiritual powers. Why? Because God is creating them. So you think, well, the spiritual powers, everyone worships them, and they really are, I just say, worthy of worship. They're infinite. And nevertheless, they're just creations, and it's forbidden to worship them. How much more so the Creator himself, he's creating me. Why can't I feel it? You can't even feel the spiritual. So therefore, when you come to that bezeh, you think about this, that God personally is creating me every instant, every second. He's creating, the same God that's creating all the angels and everything is creating me. And this mo'orer et ahava, you will arouse love in prayer. And that's the whole main point of prayer. That's what we say. Praise God, surrender to God, call his name. That we are surrendering ourselves to the fact that God is El Olam. Remember we said this yesterday? That Abraham, his message to the world is that the world is not a separate entity from God. The physical and the spiritual are not separate entities from God. God is creating them. God is creating them from nothing. This world, where me and you and all the angels are nothing compared to God. God is real reality, and the world is created reality. But on the other hand, God is, yes, creating it. He's creating it, and we're very important in God's eyes. We're very important. And that's Abraham's message to the world. That's the message of Judaism to the world. Keil Olam, the world is not, God is not the God of the world. God is not just ruling over the world. Of course, he is doing that. Of course he is. And we pray to God like God is a separate person. We pray to God. But don't be misled. That's just an aspect of God. The essence of God is that there is nothing else except for God. And God is creating us. And he wants us to be exactly as we are, with eyes and nose and mouth and free will and etc. And this is an amazing mystery. But on the other hand, it's an amazing gift that God has given. When that means that God is El Olam, not El Ha'olam. We don't say El, we say Kel. God and the world. The world is totally one with God. Ayin Mashkatub, like it says, Shuvi Yisrael. Now, don't get this thing wrong. It doesn't. There's a thing in it's called pantheism. Pantheism means the world is God. That's all there is. The world is God. That's not what Judaism is saying. The world is not saying that the world is God. Exactly the opposite. You're not allowed to pray to anything in the world. You're not allowed to pray to even an angel. You can't pray to anything. You can't recognize that anything else is God except for the Creator. That's the point. The world is just a creation. When we feel this, we have love. Suddenly you feel gratitude and tremendous love for God. It's really true. All Indians is, and on this is moves, and all of the prayers we say. That's the idea of prayer in Judaism. Prayer, loving God, telling God how much you love him, talking to God about how great he is, how great God is, and coming to love God. That's prayer. That's Jewish prayer. That's from below to above. That's like nighttime, from below to above, like fire. You have to repeat this many, many times until it is set in your heart. Seeing, mamish. And each person should take time thinking about this according to your mind. What are you supposed to think about? God is creating everything. God is infinitely real. The world, and even the angels, all the upper worlds are just being created from a ray of God's reality. 1/1,000,000th of a ray of God is creating all the worlds and everything. That's what in the Torah it's called God's word. God's word is creating everything constantly, including me and you. So a person is supposed to think, I am being created by God. I don't feel this. I don't feel it. I don't even believe it. I don't think it's true. This doesn't make any sense. Think about it. Think about it. The Rebbe is telling it. The Rebbe is the source of truth. We're saying the Rebbe is true. Like Moses. Rebbe is like Moses. He's trying to take us out of our own Egypt. Think about it. Think about it. I did think about it. I thought about it, and it doesn't make any sense. I don't think that I'm being created by God. Think about it more. Some people's minds are more crass. And you have to think about this more. Then all the requests that we make in the middle of our prayers, these are mostly psalms from King David. And all the praises that we praise from the men of the great assembly, these are mainly the prayers, the blessings right before and after Shema Yisrael. The men of the Knesset Gedolah, the men of the great assembly, that was in the beginning of the Second Temple, like 2,500 years ago, something. Machmas sheyesh ketrugim. All the requests that we made, God save us, etc. That's because there's a lot of interference to a person. But danin moto imhu roy lekach, and therefore in the heavens they are judging a person if he is fitting to receive this love. There's many preventions and causes, disturbances, hamatridos, which interfere with a person from thinking about this. So a big purpose of life is to think about what is God? What is God? Who should we be loyal to? Are we supposed to be loyal to ourselves? And my whole life revolves around what is good for me and what's bad for me? Or should my life revolve around what is good for God and what is bad for God? What God forbids in the Torah that's bad for him. And what's good is what God says we must do in the Torah. But you can't do anything for God if you don't appreciate God or you don't even think that God exists. But the more love you have for God, the more appreciation that you have for your Creator, the more appreciation you will have for the world, for others, and you'll be less selfish, centered on yourself. But that's not easy to do. And especially in this world, that's why they make synagogues. Ideally, you go to the synagogue and it's supposed to be, it used to be you go to the synagogue and there's no telephone over there. Now you go to the synagogue, you take your house with you, you have a cellular phone. Then turn the cellular phone off for a few minutes or put it on quiet or something and sit and think about God. How long should you think about God? Think about God for 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Sit and think about God for 10 seconds. You feel anything? No? Then think about God next time 20 seconds. Then maybe try a minute. Think about God for a minute. You'll see that more than 10 seconds, you can't all of a sudden you get, I didn't do this. I should buy this. I got to go. I should have, maybe did I leave the water running in my house? What did I do? What did I do? I forget. I got an appointment tomorrow. I have to do this. All of a sudden, these weird thoughts start pumping into your mind, right? Where do you get these ideas from? Where do they come from? Says the Rebbe that this is nature and God creates it. And he creates it in order to give you a challenge. Your challenge is that we are here in order to change nature, beginning with ourselves. So first of all, think about God. Is God really creating everything? Is God really infinite? And on that, we say, and I'm thinking about God, and it doesn't work. On this, we request, pray to God. Mevakshim, we request for God, rachamim, mercy. God have mercy. I'm trying to think about you, and it's not going at all. I don't even know what to think about. I've got all these other strange thoughts, and I want to think, just 1 second, I forgot about to do this. You even forget to request mercy. So shoot in a prayer of mercy. Hoshiat Amecha, save your people. Ra'im and Aseim, elevate them, God, please. Vu Rachum, God, you are merciful. The call inyan, that's all these prayers that we pray for God's mercy up to Kriya Shema is only what do we mean God's mercy? Please, God, have mercy on me so that I can arouse love for you. Kriya Shema, listen, if you think about it for 1 second, there were in World War II, there were some very cruel people. I mean, what the Japanese did to the Chinese, tremendous cruelty. And just, there was what's called Room 571 or something like that. Look over there with the Japanese. What the Nazis did, there's no what to say. Cruelty, just incredible cruelty that they killed people up and down, right and left, right? They killed Russians with no reason, just going and killing people. The Jews, everybody knows about, but the gypsies, they killed everybody, killing and murdering and torturing and killing, right? Now you go into Germany, they themselves don't know, how did I do that? How did I do such a thing like that, right? So the answer is, how does a person become cruel? Insensitivity. When a person is insensitive, then killing a person, you're not killing a person, it's like a video game. You don't feel bad if you erase somebody in a video game, you shoot the guy, you don't feel bad. Right? It's not really real. It's not really real. There's insensitivity. That's the whole point. Judaism teaches sensitivity. That's the thing, Judaism sensitivity. Now, there's a big advantage to being insensitive. The world is simple. the world becomes very simple. There's just me and everybody else. And I just wipe out everybody else. Anyone who agrees with me, they're my friend. Anyone who doesn't agree with me, they don't exist, right? That's called selfishness, and it makes the world very simple, but it's a lie. But that's nature. God created this world with that nature, with a lie. The world is a world called Alma Deshikra. It's called the world of lies, that we feel ourselves. We don't feel anyone else. So that which, like the Nazis, they quoted Nietzsche. I don't know if Nietzsche really meant this, what he said, what they're saying that he meant. But he said that the main thing is yourself, with yourself. Don't be merciful. Don't be, that's a sign of weakness. Right? Think with your arms, think with your thighs. It would just be yourself. That's all you know about, just yourself. Forget about it. That's a real man. That's a real man. A person that does not feel anything except for himself. He's not afraid of anybody, doesn't love anybody, doesn't care about anybody. Just himself. He has grown himself up to be a Superman, right? So that's a super monster. But on the other hand, that's what God created. He created us in his image. So it's very difficult to get out of this. And that's called work. That's called serving God. To come to love God instead of loving yourself. To come to love your creator instead of loving yourself. And why? It says in Anshe Yurecho Hoyu Korchim et Shema. It says that the men of Jericho, this is the beginning when they first entered the land of Israel, that they were Korchim et Shema. There's a commandment in the Torah to say Shema Yisrael twice a day. And really the commandment in its full sense is to say the whole first paragraph of Shema. Some people say you should say even more, but the whole first paragraph. So it goes, listen, Jews, God is our God, God is one, and you should love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might. Well, it says that the men of the Great Assembly, that they put in, I guess the men of the Great Assembly, it must have been before that. Anyway, maybe before that. I actually have to look it up. Anyway, so the leaders of Israel, they put, good morning, they inserted between Shema Yisrael and love, they put Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam Habayim. V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, right? B'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha. Before that, so they would say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and you should love God. But we don't do that. We have a sentence in the middle. It says, blessed is the great name of your kingship forever and ever. It says, the men of Yericho, they didn't put that sentence in, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Olam. They didn't put that sentence between Shema Yisrael and loving God. They didn't put any sentence. Why? Because they depend one the other. What does it mean? Shema Yisrael, Shema means hear, think. Think about God, that God is our God, God is one. And then the hitbonenut, as soon as you think about the oneness of God, that God is one, immediately there would be aroused love of God. Therefore, korchim et Shema. Therefore, they would what's called korchim et Shema. They would just put it together. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Immediately after that, they say you should love God with all of your heart because it came to them automatically. But the law is not like the men of Jericho. Shebruch Shem Kavod Malchut Olam Voed. Lo hayu hefsek. They didn't make a separation because shagam zeh raza de echad, because this is part of the mystery of God's oneness. Ve'ahavta Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu v'Hashem Echad. I'm sorry. I skipped something. It says the law is not like the men of Jericho. We say after Shema Yisrael, we say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Voed. We stick a sentence in there that's not written in the Torah. And the men of Jericho said that this is a separation. But the law is that it's not a separation, even though it's not a sentence from the Torah. The word Voed, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Voed, it's just an extension of the word one. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. God is one. And then we say, blessed is the name of God's kingship forever, Voed and ever. It's just like saying the one of God, Echad, saying it long. Echad, Good. It's like making it long. What does it mean, making it long? To bring it into the world. Lo avi hefsek. This sentence that the rabbis put in is not a division. It doesn't separate, even though it's not a sentence from the Torah. This is part of the mystery of God's oneness. What's the Rebbe saying? We should think about God's oneness, that nothing exists outside of God. And as soon as we think about that, we'll come to love God. But we see that we think about this and we don't come to love God. It says that's why the men of the Great Assembly, they put after the word echad, that God is one, they stuck in a sentence. Blessed is the name of the glory of the kingship forever and ever. And that just extends God's oneness into the world. The world of Voed is the secret of God's oneness. Bechelufi asvan, and there's a way of exchanging the letters. Okay, what's the Rebbe trying to say? That you look at the world and you do not feel the oneness of God. Oneness of God. Why? It's because you're trying to do it, bite off too much at one time. You're thinking in your mind, God is creating everything, therefore I am really nothing. Too fast. Don't do it. It's too big of a jump. You should think God is creating everything. He's creating the upper worlds. He's creating higher worlds than that. He's creating more spiritual worlds. He's creating lower spiritual worlds. Coming down little by little. Oh, now you can understand a little bit more that God is creating me. That's called Likuti Torah. That's called the lower unity of God. Lower unity of God. Okay, so here we got a big mystery. And the mystery is the upper unity of God and the lower unity of God. What does it mean, the lower unity of God? The lower unity of God means that we're looking at God from our point of view. I exist, but I am admitting that God creates me. I am admitting that God is bigger than me. I am admitting that I am just a miracle that God is making all the time. But the sentence always starts off with I. It's always from my point of view. That's from my point of view. I see that God is bigger than me. There's what's called the upper unity, and the upper unity is looking at the world from God's point of view, and that's people that do that have the ability to do that. They're called tzaddikim. They're called tzaddikim. And once in a while, a regular Jew can do it. That's called a Beinoni, once in a while. Okay, Hine, there's two types of love. We're going to get to happiness in a moment. Why is happiness so? So up to now, we've learned that you have to think about God. And you have to pray to God that you should think clearly and that the thoughts should arouse your heart. And it takes a lot of thought and a lot of, they call it contemplation, and a lot of clearing your mind to think about what's going on, how important this physical world is to God. That God is creating every detail constantly from nothing. And when you do that, you feel a little bit, then you come to love God. You see that God is really real. He's more real than I am. That's called the lower unity, or even he's the only reality. That's the upper unity. Okay, there's two types of love. Now, the Rebbe is really expecting that we do this. It's not just that the Rebbe is expounding. The Rebbe that's the uniqueness of Hasidut Chabad. The Rebbe is really expecting that we should come to love God. Not just we should understand it and we can talk about it and impress our friends and etc. This is talking about internal, personal, intimate, each person to himself. The Rebbe is speaking to each person. Come to love God. And when you come to love God, we'll see how the Torah and the commandments fit into this business. There's two types of love. One type of love, which is automatic. By thinking about God's oneness. And it is like a flame that comes up on its own. This is like the inner point of Judaism that flashes up. And it flames like a flaming fire. And it has no, goal. It's just reality. Pure reality. That's like Abraham. That's why Jews are willing to give their life for God. Suddenly they feel, oh, I'm just a big miracle to God. What am I gonna? I'm thinking about what's gonna be with me, what I'm gonna do. That's called a flaming up love. I don't know if this is a good example that I'm gonna bring you, but I think about this a lot of times. There was a lady, I think she wrote to me on Facebook, whatever, and she said she doesn't believe in God, she doesn't believe in this and this. She said, but and they call me a self-hating Jew. So they call me a self-hating Jew. And she was like filled with arguments and full with this and this. So I said, but that's not so. You're not a self-hating Jew. First of all, you call yourself a Jew. And I'm sure that Judaism, that being a Jew, the fact that you're a Jew, is as important to you as it is important to me. You just don't know what a Jew is. And I also don't know what a Jew is. I have no idea what a Jew is. It's just this amazing fact that's unexplainable. And you call yourself a Jew means that that fact is alive in you just like it's alive in me. And she said, thank you. The woman said, thank you. She never wrote back to me. I never wrote back. In my mind, at least in my fertile imagination, I imagine in my mind that this lady started thinking, he's right, I'm a Jew. She started crying. It's worthy, certainly worthy of tears. There's no doubt about it, because the fact that we're Jews is an amazing, completely incomprehensible idea. It's not even close, it's not even the category of making sense. And that's what's called this love of God, which is the essence of Jewish identity. And it flames up like a flame. And the problem is that a person doesn't do Torah, doesn't have mitzvahs, so the flame goes out. It's like making a fire on straw, so it flames up and then it goes out. But if a person has Torah and commandments, then it's possible that there's something for the love to grab onto. Okay. And that's one type of love that it comes automatically. This is like the essence of a Jew. Essence of what a Jew is comes up automatically. This is mostly we see in tzaddikim, big tzaddikim. Okay, we'll see. Then there's another type of love, which is shechefetz u'mishtokek, that he desires and he longs to cling to God. He thinks about God, and he thinks, wow, God is really infinitely better than I thought. V'zeh yesh b'leiv kol echad ve'echad. This is in the heart of every Jew. Every Jew longs to cling to God. And this is ve'ahavta. That's what it means you should love. What does it mean you should love? A desire. Hainu shetit aveh, that you should desire. The ava also comes from the word of ava. Ava means to desire. That you should desire that God should be my God. Kenoda, like his own. Which is not the case. The first type of love we talked about. This is like Bnei Aliyah. This is like the tzaddikim. This is an automatic love that pops up in the tzaddikim. This is also what it says that all Jewish people are all tzaddikim, but that's only in potential. And there are certain people that bring it out into actual. So there's two types of love. One is automatic. He feels an automatic, the essence of Judaism is felt by him all the time. Then there's another type of love where you just desire to be close to God. This is what it says in Shema Yisrael, Kabbalat Malchut Shemayim. You accept on yourself the kingship of heaven. You realize that God exists. You realize there is such a thing as God, especially because you see holy Jews that really believe in God. And you realize that either these people are nuts and they've been crazy for the last, 3,300 years since God gave the Torah, or even more from the time of Abraham. And they really believe that God exists. And they're just, something wrong with them emotionally. They just need a crutch or something like that. Could be. Or you say, no, that can't be. It can't be. I talk to these people. They really seem to be intelligent, normal people. The whole Judaism is based on a person that's crazy. This craziness, it is crazy, but it's craziness that's the essence of Judaism. And this essence of Judaism is that every Jew wants to come closer to God. But the problem is that it's impossible. It's difficult, especially for us. So therefore, we accept on ourselves the kingship of heaven. when we say Shema. We say, listen, God, maybe I don't understand you. Maybe I don't love you, but I know that you exist, and I know that I am not God. And I am going to try to come closer to you as possible. Tell me what to do. That's impossible, because it is impossible for me to cling to you, God. There's no thought that grasps in God. Shuyat Berech Stimo is called the concealed of all concealments. What does it mean? That there are worlds that are called concealed worlds, the spiritual worlds. Him, and they are Lamaila, they are above even this level of Olam Haba, even above heaven. The worlds which are concealed, which are even above Olam Haba, heaven. Heaven is a level which is conceivable. A person, after he dies, he goes to heaven. And there's worlds, there's levels of godliness which are infinitely higher than that. Satan, they're concealed even from heaven. That's why it says the angels are burning up to God, because they realize God exists and they have no idea what it is. That God is infinitely more real than them. They feel it, but they don't feel what it is, what God is, and they're burning up. These are the concealed worlds which are higher even than the angels. You cannot understand them. That's what's called Tamira. They're called Tamirin. They're called concealed of the concealed. This prayer cannot appreciate. It can only, it can only yearn for. But there is a way that we can connect to this level of God, which is above all of the worlds, above all of creation. That's the Torah. So to speak, the world exists for the Torah. The Torah doesn't exist for the world. It says Bereshit, God created the world for two reasons: the Torah and the Jewish people. The Torah and the Jewish people were there before the world, higher than the world, higher than the spiritual. This is what's called concealed of all concealed. And here it is, it's the Torah. It's the Torah, it's the book, it's a book in the library. That book is higher than all the spiritual worlds, all the levels. That's the essence of God's oneness, the Torah. That's why God on Mount Sinai gave the Torah. The whole purpose of God taking the Jews out of Egypt was to give them the Torah. When God gave the Jews the Torah, it says their souls jumped out of their bodies. The Torah comes from the essence of God. The Torah is above spiritual, above even the highest spiritual, above even being above the spiritual. That's the Torah. That's what happens when you say the words of the Torah, that the letters of the Torah are in them. There is in them a ray of God's essence. So to speak, God creates the world from his words, but the Torah comes from God's thought, deeper words. Something like we talked about before, the power of growth, which is in the ground, the otot machshava, or letters of thought, like we said before, that from one thought can come years of speech. Like it is in the man. In the man, it says tal orot talcha. It says like the dew of light is your dew. But dew, it just comes from God's essence. And it says that there's dew that's going to raise the dead. It says the reason this became physical until shedacham beducha, but the manna that they ate in the desert, it was pure godliness. But they were able to eat it. It came into the world just like the Torah. The Torah is pure godliness, but it's in the world. It's just a book. Look in another place. It says v'zeo. That's the idea of Torah, or that's the idea of the Torah. So what do we say? Two ways of serving God. One is nighttime and one is daytime. Nighttime is prayer, appreciating God, awakening some aspect of our soul that appreciates God, or thinking about it, Torah, longing for God. That's called nighttime. And then there's an aspect of God which is called daytime. That's the Torah. The Torah, this is a ray of Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And if so, here we go. There will be happiness. Simcha Gadol, you'll have tremendous joy when you learn the Torah. The Torah is like daytime. The Torah, when you're praying, so you're not sure, does God exist? Does he maybe he doesn't? Does God create the world? Maybe he doesn't. Right? Maybe it's all nature, maybe not. Maybe God is spiritual, maybe not. Maybe he creates the spiritual, maybe. Right? You're dealing with aspects of God, but the Torah is dealing with God's essence. God's essence. You don't feel it. It's a big problem. You don't feel it. But when you learn the Torah and you think, this that I'm learning the Torah, this is an incredible miracle. I am learning from the essence of God, which is higher than all the spiritual worlds. This should give a tremendous happiness, simcha, gedola, tremendous joy. But Esek Torah, when you learn the Torah and the commandments, because in this, Yarveh Tzimono will satisfy quench your thirst, Mashachefetz that you desire, umishtokek, and you long, Ladavka Bo Yisbrech, to cling to God. Like it's written in another place, in another mimer of the Rebbe, etc. Okay. It says, it says, because you did not serve God with joy and a good heart. Why? Because this joy that you have, avoda b'Torah, from working in Torah and the commandments, this should satisfy all of your longing to come close to God. The yochel kol adam, and every person can reach this. Okay, that's what the Rebbe says. I want to tell you a little story that maybe demonstrates this. This, I guess it was 5 years ago. Time became sort of confused, but I was by the Rebbe for the holidays, and it was on Sukkot. So Sukkot, everybody takes a lulav and etrog, all the Chabadniks, and they go out into different places and ask people if they want to do lulav and etrog. So it ended up, I went to a place alone, and I stood there, and it was sort of like Yuppieville, sort of I don't know the areas of New York. So there was a fellow, a well-dressed guy, and he was pushing a carriage. And so I asked him, excuse me, sir, are you Jewish? He said, yeah, I'm Jewish. I said, it's a Jewish holiday today. He said, yeah, I heard about that. What holiday is it? What holiday is it? I said, it's Sukkot. It's Sukkot, yeah. I said, your mother was Jewish? Yeah, my mother was Jewish. She liked candles and everything, but I'm not religious. He said. So I said, well, come and do a mitzvah. It's Sukkot. You can do a mitzvah. It takes you 3 seconds. So 3 seconds. I say, yeah, I have a standard joke that I tell everybody. It says 3 seconds, unless you resist. If you resist, then it takes longer. I laugh. He goes, well, what do I do? So I said, here, this is a lulav, this is an etrog, and there's different type of foliage on there's a hadas. You take them, put them in your hand, you make a blessing, and you shake it a little bit. That's it. So he said, okay. So I put a kippah on his head. At first, he didn't want to put a kippah on his head. He wasn't used to it. I said, just for 3 seconds. Okay, Buddha. So he made I explained to him a little bit what a blessing is before he said it. I said, a blessing, you're giving thanks to God that he's creating us and that he gave us the commandments. Okay. So he took the lulav. It was the first time in his life he ever did it. So he did that. And I said, okay, make another blessing. You're thanking God for keeping us alive. Shechianu, he made the blessing. So that's it. It took the whole thing took maybe, 3 minutes. And he gave it back to me. And he said to me, he looked at me and he said, that made me feel happy. That made me feel good. Now, this was a person I imagine that he was, a fairly well-off person who was dressed nicely. He was dressed nicely with a jacket and a sport jacket and everything. He was pushing a baby in a what's it? What's it called? Agala, I forget what it's called in English. A baby carriage. And it looked like it was, good quality, and he was dressed well, nice shoes and everything like that. So I imagine he was an intellectual person. He had some sort of a job where he used his mind, and he was a cultured person, isn't it? And he was, a normal, regular, educated person. And suddenly he said, why, that made me feel good. He had never done it before in his life. I don't know if he ever did any commandment in his life. But I looked at him for that moment and I saw, okay, maybe it was just subjected by me, but I don't think so. I just saw truth. He really said, wow, that made me really feel good. That made me feel happy. I don't remember exactly the language. That made me feel really happy. That was good. So I said, yeah, the commandments are there to make you happy. They make you feel good, right? In other words, it's not a religious thing. You do the commandments, you did a religious thing, you made another mark, I got another thing. I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to show him, here it is. Look at the book. I did this. He wasn't thinking about that at all. In fact, he wasn't thinking about anything. He wasn't thinking about anything. It was brand new to him. He was not thinking about himself. It was a brand new thing. It was fresh. And he was doing the commandments make you happy because, in fact, the commandments come from God right now. It's not that they came a long time ago, or they came from Moses, or they were developed through the generations by the wise men, and they said and decided these laws. It's not so. The commandments and the Torah is coming from God right now into the physical world. So you can say, yeah, but God is not like the physical world. It's not so. The most important thing to God is this physical world. That's the God of Israel. This joy from doing the Torah and the commandments, this satisfies the thirst of a person. What do you mean satisfies the person? The person stops thinking about himself. Suddenly you realize, hey, everything I have is a big gift, and I want more. Want more? So ideally, you should want more. You should want more, but you shouldn't forget about what we've got. If you're happy with what you've got, then you'll be happy with what you'll get. But if you're not happy with the fact that God is creating you and He's creating us to serve Him, that should make us tremendously happy. Then after that, think about making $1 million. Think about that. But you know who the boss is. It's God is the boss. God is the boss. And if you make the $1 million, you know that it's God's money. And if you don't make it, okay, it's not the end of the world. I'll try again. There's two types of learning the Torah. One type is immediately after you pray. And another type we'll talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Okay, let's do it right now. One is immediately after you pray. We've taught you pray in the morning. The morning prayers, like I said, you have to buy yourself a Jewish prayer book. A genuine Jewish prayer book, not from the whatever it is, the Orthodox Jewish prayer book. It doesn't make any difference if it's Sephardi, Ashkenazi, it makes no difference, but you see that the order of the prayers, the idea of prayer is to rouse your love. And then after you arouse your love and appreciation for God, then that's like serving God from nighttime, then you sit and learn Torah. And your soul was thirsty for God like water, then you're happy serving God. Now I'm doing what God wants, I'm learning Torah, etc. The other type of love, of learning the Torah is kenofel mibechinas ahava, kishenofel mibechinas ahava. When you don't have this love, you don't have this love for God, you don't appreciate God. Where is this? A working man. That's talking about 99.9% of the Jewish people. Right? They're working in the world. You have a job, but you just sit for a couple minutes and learn Torah. Nevertheless, you can be happy when you learn Torah. You just think for 1 minute, half a minute, 10 seconds. You think that the Torah is Or Ein Sof, and the Torah is and God are one. Even though that right now I'm far, I was just in my business and I was doing a business deal of fixing my computer, whatever it is, totally not thinking about God. But now I'm learning Torah, I'm in God's world. But Tachlis, even though I was infinitely far away from God a second ago, I was working in the world. Nevertheless, because what I was doing was permissible, I was doing according to the Torah. So since that he didn't do anything bad, he didn't do any sins, there's nothing preventing me from loving God. It's just I was involved in the world. That's okay. But nevertheless, now I think about what God is, and then I'm learning God's Torah. It's like I'm giving God a kiss. Suddenly I'm kissing God, and it's an amazing, amazing feeling. Amazing feeling, learning the Torah in that way. That's called jumping out. And this we'll talk about, God willing, tomorrow. This we'll talk about, God willing. Okay.